Hello and sunny Bonani, 7:33 Central African Time. Welcome to the top tier of Breakaway League Racing. Welcome to Mexico. We are at the Autódromo Hermanos Rodríguez once again. It's the top tier of Breakaway League Racing. We have 14 drivers that have registered their participation up until this point. Please don't mind that weird glitch where some of the names are blanked out. It's just a strange thing that we see with some of the lobbies. I know that this particular driver is Don Rabico, for instance. Still getting confirmation whether or not it's Caboza or Mex in this McLaren. And I do believe this is Tapiso in the Haas. Well, either way, they all 14 of these drivers have about 18 minutes to stake their claim on progression through to Q2. And if you're new to Formula One, the aim of the game at this point is pretty simple. You put in the fastest possible time that you can, and that would either A, guarantee you progression, or if it's not quick enough, then you would get knocked out. Now, in Q1, only 15 drivers are eligible to make it through to the next quali session. Thankfully, then, we have, pretty much just under that, so there's no pressure. All these drivers need to do, including this man, Tapiso, is just bring the car home safely and have an eligible banker lap, so to speak, and that will pretty much, at this point, guarantee progression through to Q2. But this being Breakaway, this being the top tier, the stories that we're paying close attention to at this point of the season are all in regards to possible promotion and relegation. And speaking of that, the likes of Tapiso, who are watching, is at risk of falling and tumbling down into the automatic relegation places. Tapiso has racked up 15 championship points up until this point. Sadly, he didn't get any points last time out in Spain, but he's here to make sure that he, at the very least, he hangs on to these playoff spots. He's currently 16th, which means he would be in the playoffs, but as he approaches the final corner, he has a moment with the wall, and Tapiso off to an underwhelming start here. One of just two drivers out on track. Most of the grid opting to go on instead of medium compound tires. Of course, diminished field. They know it's slightly less pressure than would be the case usually. So everybody staying, opting to start on medium compound tires. Gala the Tsang, the 86er, is in the comment section. Keen to see how the action unfolds here in Mexico. The 86er is well and truly on course to maintain his, reclaim his seat in the top tier of Breakaway League Racing. Here comes Tapiso now, past turn 6, making his way towards the S's, which did prove treacherous in tiers 2 and 3 for some drivers, but not Tapiso. He's fairly comfortable to have moments with the curbs and hit those apexes, and he now rushes towards turn 12 in this year's circuit, goes as wide as possible to get the best possible entry into 12, and this, of course, is such a crucial part of the track. We saw the likes of SSL Mango in our third tier have a lot of fun in sectors 2 and 3 last time out. Tapiso's first banker lap, despite the mistake at the beginning before crossing the line, it's a 119.299, the early benchmark. As we have the likes of Liddy asking Don why he's not racing. Well, I believe Don Rabico's car is there, Liddy, but we've got a weird glitch. As you can see, Don Rabico's name not immediately visible. Let's hop on board now with the three-time champion, hoping to reclaim his crown that is under threat, at risk of being taken by none other than his teammates. C-Clay is just 1 point behind Smirt's Django. The two Mercedes drivers have 229 and 228 points respectively, but C-Clay's looking good come the end of Sector 2. Almost went wide there on the entry towards, I think it was turn 14. Here he comes now towards the final couple of corners. It's definitely going to be the quickest time. It's a 17.8 on those medium compound tires, so Seakley definitely has got the pace, and we will see exactly what kind of times he will be capable of. We're on board now with Mandla. Turns 1, 2, and 3, that initial chicane. It's a clean navigation of that part of the track, and here he comes now rushing towards turn number 4. Sector 1 split 29.166. We're going to watch those splits very carefully, of course, and see whether or not they stack up to some of the top runners as this session goes on. Now, Josh, aka Damnesia, is Mandla's teammate. He's also under pressure of getting automatically relegated, and he's also currently on a hot lap. A proper run. Mandla goes completely off track and has to abandon that attempt at a proper push lap / hot lap. So we will instead jump over to Josh, aka Damnesia, who's on the verge of passing his teammate, who's going to be getting himself back together and collecting himself, so to speak. Crash is also here in the comment section. It's good to see all of you folks, as we are pretty much set for a very, very entertaining high-stakes race out here in Mexico. 12 laps remaining in this quali session. Here comes Damnesia under pressure. He could not claim points in Spain. He will try to stake a claim at progression through to Q2, and his initial push racks up a 120.734. Now, Esbuda is going to be next to cross the line for Team Alpha Tauri. He's also desperate for points as Ban Kobe joins the fray. He will be taking part. Will the Aston Martin driver Esbuda sets a 119.499 to go P3 as things currently stand. Here comes Ngawako, aka D-Wax. 19.111 will put him comfortably in that P2 spot. Ngawako back to his consistent ways, back to, the very good habits of making sure that he claims points whenever necessary and whenever the chance presents itself. Ngawako, last time out, finished P6 in Spain. So it's been quite a little bit of a while since he was in the top 5. His best finish this season was that 5th place all the way back in Japan. So Ngawako knows what needs to be done as far as his own efforts are concerned. Let's hop on board now with Jonathan Lacka, who was sensational in qualifying last time out in Spain. But he converted that in the end to a 7th place finish. He crossed the line P7 in Spain, despite that sensational qualifying, which saw him start towards the front in Barcelona. Here he comes now, looking to complete the second of these 3 sectors. Takes a wide line, trying to nail that entry into turn 12. His sector 2 split was in the low 58 seconds. So another one to be watching very, very closely. Navigating now the stadium section. One which, of course, none other than Zotao was oh so familiar, as Crash reminds us to like the stream. Jonathan Lacka crosses the line for a 17.962, the second quickest driver of the day. Now, Tabble T92 is making his way back into the pit, and Jonathan Lacka's teammate, the other Don Radical, Pacey Don Radical, is now making his presence felt across Sector 2, and he sent it straight into the wall. He came unstuck in the S sections, and as he took all those high G-forces spinning around, he would have been hoping, would have been praying that his car stays intact, and that it's not a DNF. Thankfully for him, that exactly how it transpired. Don Radical, lucky to have his car still intact. Man, oh man, that was very, very close. So the Pacey Ferrari driver has got it all to do here towards the end of proceedings. It's a full house as far as Red Bull representation is concerned, and we're now watching Fence 360, who's looked good ever since coming up to the top tier. He navigates turns 1, 2, and 3 without incident, and now we'll send it rushing towards the braking zone of turn 4. It's a 28.907 split at the end of his first sector. Also, notably, going with that medium tire at the start of this quali session. Of course, they won't be feeling too much pressure to get knocked out at this point. We will see whether or not Fence can keep it clean and keep it together and keep it all intact here on board. His Sector 2 split, 58.547, wide entry into 12. It's a clean entry, that must be said. A little bit of a moment, but before adjusting in towards turn 13. Heavy curves across 14. And here he comes now across the line. Will he challenge the likes of Zotile? The answer is yes. He will knock Zotile down a peg or two. Just one place. He's up to P3. Zotile is then now in P4 with that time, which is a 18.664 for the Alpine driver. Fence 18.639. Let's catch up with the likes of Smirch Django, because Ban Kobe has just crossed the line for P8. Django now is hoping to claim C-Clay's throne and become the new champion of the top tier of Breakaway Racing League. What can he do? We're watching Django very, very closely. Sector 2, slow-moving Alpha. Man, that's not going to be good for Django. You would have been quite displeased with that. It looks like it might have been Josh, aka Damnesia, who really slowed Django down. So his soft tire run is probably not going to be representative of his full pace, because he had to lift off the throttle there to make way for that slow-moving Alfa Romeo. And despite that, he's just going to send it now across the line for the quickest time, 17.468, despite having to slow down. So Django, well, he'll be happy to be top, but we well and truly have not seen his true pace as yet. Tabo T92 for Team Red Bull. Coming towards turn number 4. And it's clean down towards a third gear for the Red Bull driver. He's got 6 minutes to stake his claim on a spot in Q2. And we also have the likes of Don Radico, who's back out on track after making that initial mistake. Tabo T92 has a moment at the start of the S section, just coming through turn 7, where he had a little bit of trouble, but he managed to get it together, unlike Don Radico earlier, and he is now rushing towards turn 12 as one of the Mercs made way for him to complete his lap cleanly. And turn 13 is a little bit wide of the apex. Hello, Tabang Emenguni. The 3 ghosts are Cepiso in Team Haas and Don Radico for Team Ferrari. And we're still waiting for confirmation. I believe it is Caboza for Team McLaren. Tabo T92 sets a 19.591, so he's 9th quickest at this point in time. Don Radico made it past the S section cleanly. He kept his wing intact, and he's now making his way towards the line. Don Radico, one of the quicker drivers in the top tier, sets a 16.998, the quickest time that we've seen in the top tier thus far, and a sensational effort, that must be said. Don Radico lighting it up. Once again, the first person to breach that barrier and into the 1 minute 16 seconds. Sensational effort by the Ferrari driver. Here comes Caboza. A little bit of a rough entry into turn 12, but he managed to maintain that speed. He's still pushing. He's still keeping it going. And he's going to look to set himself firmly among the top runners here. Also, medium tires for him. It's P11, the best that he could do. So Caboza definitely got some pace to find, but it is medium, so we don't know what his true pace looks like on the quickest compound, which is, of course, the soft tires. Most of the grid opting to start on these mediums, saving their quick soft tires for Q2 and Q3, where the going gets tough and the risk of getting knocked out becomes that much greater. So Ban Kobe is back in the pits, and Caboza is now in P11. What a season Caboza is having. Sadly, he could not claim points in Spain, but it's been a sensational season for the McLaren driver, who won the feature race all the way back in Brazil. Wandel Shezi responding in the comments, barely believing the kind of times that we're seeing only in Q1. 116 in Q1 already. What on earth is going on here? Well, they're certainly turning the wick up, and they're giving us a taste of some of the pace that is yet to come. It looks like Fensei and Kaboza are the only two drivers out on track. Fensei on the verge of beginning what would be a second push lap for Team Red Bull. His teammate Tabo T92 currently sitting in that P10 spot. Here comes Fensei. We're going to hop on board now. Ooh, heavy on the curb into turn one. Had to make a couple of corrections there, but his exit out of turn three is all right. So Fensei just looking to keep a clean lap here, but he's lost quite a bit of time. So that entry into turn one really cost him. And that exit out of turn five was also costly as well. He's down 0.3 of a second. So as it stands, unless his sectors 2 and 3 are absolutely inch perfect, he's not going to be improving his lap around here. But of course, this being Q1 with low stakes and no one on the verge of getting booted out of this session, he is just happy to keep on going and get a proper feel for this track. Of course, drivers from time to time don't have all of the hours to be putting in the practice before races. So in some instances, when the opportunity presents itself, then drivers do opt to treat Q1 as a sort of a free practice session, going round and round as many times as they can to get a sense of the flow of the track. Fensei, P5, 18.639, the best that he could do. It looks like he's definitely giving it another go. And Don Radical, speaking, of course, responding to what Crash said earlier about the sensational effort that we saw in quali yesterday, that being the time put in by none other than SSL Mango. With a freshly squeezed 116.022 in yesterday's qualification session. Here comes Josh, aka Damnesia, who is desperate for points, mired at the bottom of the standings and has an almighty spin coming out of turn 3, and that is pretty much his lap done. And sadly for Josh, this is a fresh set of soft tires that he had that huge spin on, and they're probably flat spotted those tires. And well, Sapiso opts to retire his car in the pit lane, and Josh presumably is rushing as much as he can, trying to cross that line before the clock hits 0. Cikle, meanwhile, is making his way through the first sector of this track. Kaboza opts to retire in the pits, as does Donovan Laka. So Q1 is pretty much almost over. The quickest man thus far today is Don Radical, 116.998, a sensational effort by the Ferrari driver. Here comes Cikle now. His sector 2 split will be marginally slower, about 0.04 of a second slower than his best time, but he will hope to still do something comparable to his Q1 effort. He hasn't exactly lifted off and completely given up on this as yet. He is still eligible to cross the line and see whether or not he can improve. He's a 10th down, so he was not able to improve on that second run. Ban Kobe, desperate for points, and is currently improving on his Q1 time. He's almost half a second quicker than his initial effort. Notably, he's on a second set of soft compound tires, brand new softs for Ban Kobe, and I do wonder if he might live to regret that in Q2 and 3 if he does make it. But here he comes now across the line, 9th quickest time of Q1. So Don Radical is the quickest driver of this session. Smirch Django just behind him, about almost half a second. Cikle, the 3-time champion, went 3rd quickest from Donovan Laka for Team Ferrari. Fensei for Red Bull went P5 from Zoltan in 6th. Sapiso, 7th, and Gowako D-Wax, 8th, Ban Kobe, 9th, Esbuda, 10th, Tabo T92, 12th, from Kaboza in 12th, Tabo T92, 11th, I beg your pardon, Damnesia 13th, and Mandla was 14th place. Look at that. Single tire compound for most of the pack, with the exception of Bankobi, who opts to use 2 sets of soft compound tires in Q1. Look at Don Rabico. Look at the confidence, asking, hey, do you guys want me to set a time in the 1:16s flat? Perhaps he's that confident. Seaflay says, why don't you just breach that barrier and set a time in the 1:15s already? We've seen what the likes of SSL Mango did in Tier 3. What could these guys do, I wonder? Liddy's in the comments section, and Man Ray, Don Radical as well, Bongani, Debo Croc. It's good to see all of you here. Remember to like the stream if you have not already, and welcome to Q2. It's the second of 3 qualifying sessions, top tier of a Breakaway League racing. This is where things get slightly more interesting and definitely a touch more competitive. Now, 4 drivers will be eliminated from this session. Only 10 go through to that top 10 shootout, and indeed the battle for pole position. Cepiso, once again, out on track early, as is this man, Zotal, who we'll watch closely at the beginning of Q2. The Alpine driver has been having a decent season, feeling much more comfortable on that racing wheel. Of course, he did make the transition from the controller to the racing wheel a couple of seasons ago, and definitely feeling at home is Zotal. And as the season has gone along, he has slowly climbed his way up the pack. He is currently 5th in the driver's standings, 80 points, and he's trying to hunt down Mex, who drives, of course, for McLaren. So the standings are Django and Seaclay in 1st and 2nd in the driver's standings, 229 and 228 points respectively. Caboza is 3rd, 119 points for him. Mex is 4th, 110, and then Zotal on 80 points. And Gawako, D-Wax, moved up 1 place between the previous 2 races. He's up to 6th place is Ngawako. And the drivers at risk of getting relegated are Damnesia, Espuda, and Nebo, who are 20th, 19th, and 18th. Bottom 3, remember, are the drivers getting automatically relegated. And Bankobi, who finished 5th in Spain, has fought his way into the playoff spaces. So Bankobi for Team Aston Martin, huffing and puffing at the end of the season, fighting his way back. Here comes Zotal's efforts. He's going to be the 2nd driver to set a representative lap in Q2. Ooh, a little bit of a heavy entry there into turn 1. Didn't quite nail that apex as you would have liked, perhaps. A slow-moving AlphaTauri makes way for the Alpine driver, who opens up that rear wing, gets DRS, and sets a sector 1 time of a 29.028 seconds. Exit of turn 5 is clean for Zotal. 6 as well, and now hurdles towards 7 and the beginning of the winding S section of the track. Turn 6, I beg your pardon, gear 6 through the S's, and will now, of course, unleash towards turn 12, opening up that rear ring for the 2nd DRS zone, nailing the braking zone into turn 12 without incident. By now, Cepiso is on the verge. Cepiso on the exit of turn 17 and crosses the line. Cepiso 17.831 is his efforts for Team Haas. Here comes Zotal's answer. Will it be close? Will it be marginal? It's 18.988, so it's P2 for Zotal. The McLaren of Caboza is up next, followed by an AlphaTauri. 18.069 puts him provisionally in P2. Ngawako, D-Wax crosses the line and goes 3rd quickest, knocking Zotal down to P4. And one of the Ferraris is on the verge. It's Donathan Laka, 17.918, sets him P2. And his teammates is also on the verge. One of the Red Bulls is on the verge of crossing the line. It's Tabo T92, who hadn't validated, so that time will not count, as Buddha is really on the verge of beginning his proper push lap. So instead, we will watch Don Rabico to see what he could do in Q2. 17.598 puts him top of the pops. So he might yet be safe, unless, of course, the field improves dramatically. Josh, aka Damnesia, now making his way through the final sequence of corners. What can he do across the line? It's going to be 19.085 It is P7 for the Alfa Romeo driver. And Clay, three-time champion, on the verge. No, he's not, because he had invalidated. It looks like one of the Red Bulls is on a valid lap. That is Fence, whose Sector 2 split was in the 57 seconds. He will come across the line. 17.850 puts him in P3. It looks like Zoltal's making his way back into the pit lane, so instead we'll hop on board with Espuda, who is desperate for points, having had so many retirements in this season. He's 19th in the standings and has racked up just 9 championship points up until this point. The last time that Espuda claimed points was all the way back in Austria, but this time he puts it P7 right behind his teammate. Espuda is really in a desperate situation here. Last time he claimed points was all the way in the 6th race of the season, all the way in Austria. He came across the line P10. That was a really, really long time ago. We're now into race 14, and Espuda is still definitely struggling out there. It looks like Mandla has given up on this push lap. So we will instead focus on Clay, who comes across the line with a 16.754. How's that, Don Rabico? Clay on his second lap, because the first had been invalidated, smashes the time at the top. And, we're going to have to see what Don Rabico is made of, especially towards the end of this session and Q3. A sensational effort by the champion, Bankobi. Carrying a little bit of confidence after that P5 finish, the best performance of his season thus far, is now in the playoff spots to fight for his right to take part in this tier next year. Rabico says, well, the guys are flying, Mandem are flying.
And Dr. Rabico, come on, 16.7.
Rabico says pole isn't a good option here. Perhaps he wants a better line going into turn 1 in the race proper. Let's see how Bankobi here fares. He will absolutely bite your arm off if you offer him pole position, or indeed a place in the top 5 starters of this race. A lot of running still to go, of course. Here it comes now to the S section. Oh, a little bit of a moment. Not very comfortable there, and he invalidates. Coming through, I think, turn 8, you really struggled. You saw him fiddling with the steering wheel, and that just, he lost a lot of confidence and was not able to push properly and invalidated. So Bankobi is going to have to go for it all the way again. Meanwhile, in Kawako, D-Wax, look at that improvement. He improved significantly on that recent run. 17.814 puts him P3. Sensational stuff by D-Wax, who is now making his way towards the pit lane. That red light is flashing. He's low on fuel. He has to come back into the pits now. But man, oh man, what a sensational effort by D-Wax. P3, he may yet feel safe. What do you reckon will be the time to put you safely through to Q3? What is the time that the 10th fastest driver will need? I want to hear your thoughts. Thus far, everybody in the top 6 has a time in the 1 minute 17s. And Don Rabico says, hey, Clay, stop sandbagging. We want to see your true pace. Someone who's definitely given it a proper go is this man, Zotal. And at the end of the first sector, has improved on his best time by about 1/10 of a second. Will that be enough for Zotal to guarantee his participation in Q3? He's on a fresh set of stock compound tires, is Zotal, and we're on board now on the section of track where Bankobi came unstuck. Zotal has no such issues. Now, on the rush towards turn 12, it's an 1/8 improvement by Zotal. So, sensational stuff as he passes the stadium section where he was lucky enough to be a spectator in person at last year's real-world Mexican Grand Prix. Zotal in familiar territory, winking at the seat where he would have sat last time out, comes across the line, 17.811. It's P3 for Zotal in Q2 with 6 minutes of this session to go. Fantastic work by the Alpine driver. Now, Smirch Django is giving it a go, and he is going to want to, answer his teammate and answer the grid and just show us exactly what he's got in terms of pace. His Sector 2 split, 57.967, heavy on the curve into turn 12. and is now trying to keep it inch perfect as far as hitting those apexes in the final sequences of corners. He takes turn 16, nails that apex. He looks towards the 17th and final corner and pointed straight towards the line to cross with a 17.657. Django P3 behind both his teammate and Don Radical. Man, oh man, oh man. What do we have in store here? Josh improves on his own time by about 2/100ths of a second. He's got 5 minutes to improve, and on the exit of turn 5, he invalidates. So Josh, on those brand new softs, is going to have to go all the way around again to show us what he's made of. Fensei, who had up until this point set a 17.850, is off track. It's an invalidation. If he wants to improve on that, he may not feel safe enough to guarantee participation in Q3. He's going to have to give it another go. Remember, only 10 drivers go through to Q3. And one of the drivers giving it another go is Mandla, whose best time up until now is a 18.672. But come the end of Sector 1, he has improved by more than a tenth of a second on board with Mandla through turn number 6. And it's clean for the Alfa Romeo driver. Let's see what he can do. He also recently put in a season's best performance. Oh, and as I say that, he sends it straight into the wall in the S section. Mandla coming completely unstuck, and that wheel is off the front suspension. Decimated as Mandla pretty much ends his quali prospects. Will take no further part in this session. Tabo T92 would have heard from race control that there's a yellow flag at that part of the track. He's now given it a proper push, a proper go. And ahead of Tabo T92 is Josh, aka Damnesia. On his birthday, Mandla pretty much, egg on his face. I almost said, whipped cream or whatever you put on top of a cake. Fondant on his face. Not quite the happiest of birthdays from Mandla, who will now have to go back and, be consoled by, I don't know what they've got in that Alfa Romeo garage. Perhaps some cookies.
Happy birthday, Mother Hardage.
Yes, had a Mandla. It's a pity that Mandla got himself pretty much excluded from this session. Tabo T92 makes his way through the S's unscathed. It's an improvement by 8.5 tenths of a second. So Tabo looking good for Team Red Bull. Might make it a double representation for Red Bull in Q3 and that battle for pole position. Here he comes now towards the line, turn 17, and he improves by 9.2 tenths of a second. But it's only good enough for P8. So will he feel safe enough is, of course, the burning question. Van Kobe is on an outlap. It looks like Tapiso and Don Radical are the drivers in P2 and 3. Well, that is a sensational effort by Tapiso. It must be said. Look at that. The Haas driver currently second quickest, right behind the three-time champion. Right now, we hop on board with Donovan Laka. Clean performance through the S's, as improved by 0.2 of a second. Will that be enough to keep him safe? There's so many drivers who will be fighting Don Radico as he comes across the line with a 16.509. The Ferrari driver with the quickest time in Q2. Looking pacey, looking sensational. His teammate Donovan Laka is P4 with just under 2 minutes of this session to go. Well, things are really heating up. The man desperate for points is now making his way into the third turn of the first sector. Now, here he comes, and we'll get a sense of whether or not Ban Kobe can get it done. 28.907. Ooh, quite heavy there in his navigation of turn 4 particularly. I do wonder if that'll cost him dearly. Now, it's a heart-in-the-mouth moment for Ban Kobe, who didn't enjoy his entry into turn 8 particularly. This was where he came unstuck last time out. He's kept it clean, has Ban Kobe, or has he? Gear 6, a little bit wide entry there, navigating the final parts of that winding section of Sector 2. His split is 59.125, not very competitive. Entry into turn 12 is okay for Ban Kobe. He's got a minute left to show us what he's made of. and whether or not he can guarantee his participation in progression through to Q3. Brakeaway under immense pressure towards the line. It's not going to be that competitive relatively. It's a 14.455. He is mired at the bottom of those standings. Brakeaway under pressure, and he opts to retire. That's pretty much him out of Q2. Josh, aka Damnesia, is on the verge of, well, possibly, it looks like he might only just begin his push lap now. So this is Josh giving it a final go. It's the last chance saloon, a last hurrah for the Alfa Romeo driver. We're going to see whether or not he can get it done. Cicle is giving it another push on those used set of soft compound tires, so it may yet be possible that Cicle knocks Don Radical off that P1 spot. As it stands at the checkered flag, Don Radical currently quickest. Cicle just almost a tenth behind Don Radical, but Cicle is giving it another go, as is Smirch Django. So we're going to see whether or not Cicle or Django crosses the line first. But if you've just joined us, you're just in time for the top 10 shootout. Ooh, Damnesia almost invalidating there in the entry towards turn 8. But he managed to keep it and his car within the realms of those track limits. He finds 3/10. Does Damnesia. He needs it. He's desperate if he's going to knock the likes of Capoza from that P10 spot. He needs to be inch perfect between now and the last corner, that being 17. We've seen drivers make contact with the wall. Damnesia keeps it clean. Damnesia crosses the line and tries he might. He could not get it done. Cicle, meanwhile, made his way all the way back into the pits. He opted not to push across the line. Here comes Cicle's teammate, Smirch Django, currently the 5th quickest driver in the second quali session. Will he also just bring it back into the pits? No, Django is pushing. He's giving it his all, and he goes 3rd quickest, matching his teammates' identical times. Cicle, Django, 116.639 to end proceedings in Q2. Would you look at that? Man, oh man, oh man. Well, folks, Smirch Django is the 3rd quickest driver at the end of this second quali session. Identical times set by the two Mercs, so that Mexico setup is singing as Malusi the Malusi throws those complimentary fire emojis in the comments section. Look at that performance by Tapiso, P4, about almost a second behind the top running Don Radical, 16.509. Donthon Laka, P5, Zotal is 6th, Duaco Diwac 7th, Fence 8th, Tabo T92, and Capoza, the drivers, through to Q3. Damnesia, Espuda, Mandla, the birthday boy, and Brakeaway have been knocked out in Q2. Thank you for joining us. Remember to like the stream. We have Q3 and the battle for pole position up next.
Language here in Mexico is Spanish. Interestingly, there are more Spanish-speaking citizens here than anywhere else in the world. Hola.
12 minutes. 12 minutes. That is all they get. 12 minutes to stake their claim on a front row start. 12 minutes to secure as high as a starting position as is humanly possible. Tapiso, once again, not wasting any time. No matter the quali session, he will always come out among the first drivers onto the track. Tapiso will be the first to set a representative time. And Lancelot Macabella says, it's crazy that Mango did a 116.022 in a one-shot qualification. Absolutely. One of the performances of the season as far as quali is concerned, and Mango in Tier 3 backed it up completely. And Tindo says, I just wish Hamilton could see how these Mercedes boys are showing up here. This is what we should be expecting. This is what we should be seeing in the real world, so reckons Tindo. Tabo T92, another Q3 appearance for him, looking good, comfortable, confident, and we will see how his performance will fare as this session goes on. So the two Ferraris opting to stay in the pits at this point, not pushing, not going for it as yet. At this particular point in time, Cepiso, Caboza, and Gawako will be the first three drivers to set those representative laps, followed by the likes of Zotal and then Fence. And Tabo T92 also in the mix over there. It looks like Smirch Django will be the second of our two Mercedes drivers to give it a proper go. Let's hop on board now. First Q3 push. It's the final chance that they have to secure their spot in the front row. I want to hear your predictions. Who will be in the front row? P1, P2, P3. I would love to hear your thoughts, your predictions. Look at how confident Cicle is through those initial sequences of corners. Beautiful stuff by the champions. Sector 1 split is a 28.576. Turn 4 is clean for the champion, as is 5, and he's now making his way, of course, towards that kink being turn number 6 into 7. Look how wide the entry is just to line up and get the perfect line into the F section. He's on the limit. You would think that he was on the verge of invalidating, but Cicle being Cicle toys with the limit and is absolutely mercurial, inch perfect, as we should now start seeing the initial times start to trickle in as Cicle goes purple through the second sector. Looks like Cepiso abandoned his push lap, but Caboza will come across the line. 17.616 for him, and Gawako is closely behind. What can Cicle do across the line? It's a 16.580 from the champion. Will be followed by Fence in Team Red Bull. Where is Zotal? 17.8 puts him P4, and the likes of Donovan Laka are on the verge of crossing the line, but let's see how Django fares. The answer is, sadly, invalidated, so Django's time will not count. So we will instead see how Donovan Laka fares. It looks like he is definitely ahead of his teammate. 58.070 split at the end of the second sector. Donovan Laka, rookie to the top tier, has looked absolutely sensational this season, has been consistent in claiming points, and last time out put on a heck of a show in Spain to qualify among the front runners. Can he do it this time? Across the line comes the Ferrari P6, provisionally as things currently stand. Don Ravico is his teammate, of course. He has been imperious up until this point, and his Sector 2 split was equally as imperious. No more sandbags. Here comes Ravico across the line. 16.487 is the benchmark with 7.5 minutes of this session to go. A scorching hot time by the driver in the Scuderia Ferrari F175. Beautiful effort with 7.5 minutes of this session to go. Don Ravico is the standard again, and we will see exactly what he is made of towards the end of this session. Whether or not he can find a little bit more, or whether or not he will be hanging on to that provisional pole position without a challenge. What a sensational showing by the Ferrari driver. Cepiso was imperious in Q2, but we still have to see what he's made of in this third and final qualifying session. And Gawako, aka D-Wax, has already done 2 laps. Is he pushing, I wonder, now making his way towards the end of Sector 1? It doesn't look like he's relenting at all. His Sector 1 split will be an improvement by about 1/100th of a second. So he's doing very, very well on what will soon be 3-lap-old soft compound tires, and Gawako D-Wax absolutely sending it and finding the margins, finding the limits of what these tires can still give him. Here comes now, his red light is flashing, last chance to move this is, and if he can keep it going, he's looked absolutely imperious, and he navigates those S's brilliantly. He finds a further 10th. He's now 2/10 up on his previous best time, so he may yet overtake even the likes of Caboza, depending on how his Sector 3 goes. Here comes now across turns number 15, and that is 16, and here it comes across 17. It's provisional P3 for Ngawako. Beautiful stuff, 17.403. It's a very, very solid showing by Ngawako, aka D-Wax. and he'll definitely hope that he could fit a new set of softs and show us what more he can do. Now on board with the challenger to see Clay's throne. Now making his way, breaking into turn 1. It's clean for Django. And here he comes now, rushing towards turn number 4. Tapiso is actually ahead of him on track, 28.744. This is Django's first representative lap, so we'll, of course, not be getting a sense comparatively to previous runs or anything like that. He didn't validate first time out. Here he comes now into the tricky, treacherous S section of Sector 2. Turn 8 is clean. So is 9 and 10, and 11. Keeping it nice and steady. 57.491 is that split. The end of Sector 2. His entrance into 12 is without incident. That network showing slight glitches as far as his car is concerned, but he's keeping this lap together, and he has been inch perfect up until now. But will he have enough pace to challenge Ravico? No. 17.126. It means that there's definitely pace to find, work to do for the Mercedes driver. Tapiso, meanwhile, still couldn't put in a representative lap. He came all the way back into the pits, did Tapiso. We now have 4 minutes as Django, pretty much goes all the way across the track limits. He's rushing to get back into the pits and perhaps refuel, fit a fresh set of the tires, and show us what he can do towards the end of this here session. With 3.5 minutes of this session to go, Tabo T92 currently running P9. Django might not keep up with those two here, so says Letty in the comment section. Django perhaps not as comfortable as the likes of Cicle and Don Ravico. Tabo T92 is on the limit meanwhile. 3.5 minutes of this session to go. 6th gear through the S section. It's a clean navigation of that treacherous part of the track. He finds almost half a second. It does Tabo T92. Man, oh man. Meanwhile, Zotal has found himself up into the top 4. 17.146, the best that Zotal can do up until this point. Beautiful stuff by the Alpine driver in Gawako, now languishing in that P6 spot. Tabo T92 overtakes Gawako and goes up to P5 with a 17.386. Beautiful stuff by Tabo T92. How much more would he be able to start? Second row start, the leaders are always vulnerable. So says Man Ray, it's such a long straight, one of the longest main straights in the entire Formula One calendar, of course. So there is an opportunity for you to attack the leaders of this race in that rush towards turn 1. Now the skies are getting a little bit darker. I do wonder if we will see some rain before all things are said and done. If we'll see some rain in the actual race itself. This is Don Ravico's final attempt, his final push, his final say. At the end of Q3, he improved by 8 tenths and goes P4 provisionally as things currently stand. Man, oh man, oh man. What more do we still have in the bag? Possibly, what more could we see? I really do wonder what kind of times we will see as this session hurtles on towards its thrilling conclusion. Sadly, Fense at this point has abandoned his push lap, so he's definitely not pushing. Kaboza has yet to begin his final push lap. Tapiso is in Sector 1, and he's still trying to give it a final push, a final go. Let's see how Cicle's challenge is going to go. It looks like Cicle and Django are actually completing their outlaps. On board now with the 3-time champion, hoping to usurp Don Ravico, who is following behind him. Don Ravico is behind Cicle, and we will see whether or not Cicle can pile on the pressure by leapfrogging the Ferrari driver. A little bit of a moment coming into turn 2 there, but will he manage to hang on and find some sort of marginal improvement in his first sector? The answer is yes. 0.08 of a second is the improvement that Cicle gets. at the end of that first sector. Don Radical is huffing and puffing, pushing behind Cicle. He will pay no mind to that. He will just look, to get it absolutely perfectly. A little bit of a moment. I do wonder if that's a glitch or if Cicle is managing to keep it together here, but that car definitely jumping around. We'll get a sense of whether or not the Cicle struggled. No, the answer is he's still keeping it together. He finds a 10th, almost a 10th and a half. So Don Radical under threat. It's the final part of Q3. It's the final push. Cicle, he'll be the first to show us what he can do. He improves as a 16.239 from the champion. He is in that P1 spot as things currently stand. But bad news for Cicle is Don Radical has found a 10th and a half. He's also improved as Don Radical. But will it be enough come the end of this? No, he invalidates. Don Radical is going to have to start P2 minimum. What can Django do? He's looking to find his way onto the front row. So Don Radical, that's pretty much his prospects done and dusted. It looks like Donathan Laka will secure that P4 spot unless Ngawako and Kaposa and Cepiso can find something. Now, here comes the Mercedes Challenger towards the line. Will it be an improvement? Cepiso has retired. He will start P10. Django cannot improve. P3 start for him. And what about Kaposa? Here he comes. Sadly for Kaposa, it looks like he's actually not managed to improve, and he has a huge moment there with the bollard, so he will not be able to improve definitely as he finds his way back into the pit. So Cicle is in pole position. 16.239 from Don Radical and Smurf Django in that P3 spot. Man, oh man, oh man, it's gray skies. Will we have rain in the race itself? That is something that we will watch very, very closely. And we've got Donathan Laka, who will start fourth. Ngawako will start in P5, flanked by Zotal in sixth. Tabo T927 from Fensei, and then we have Kaposa, who will start in P9, and in 10th spot is Cepiso. The margin between the top two is 2.5 tenths of a second. So, as far as qualifying is concerned, Cicle is the person to beat. But of course, the sensational time across all three tiers is that put by SSL Mango, who really put the entire Breakaway Racing League stable on notice. Beautiful stuff from the racers. Thank you so much for joining us. If you've just joined us, you're in time for the race. Welcome to Mexico. Autódromo Hermanos Rodríguez. Welcome to Mexico City. Remember to like our stream and interact. I want to hear everything about your predictions, your reactions to this race. We should be set for a really sensational race out here. Don Ravico says the track was cold. It's blue skies, thankfully. Man Ray cheering on Cicle, and I think Kid K was responding to Don Ravico's incident. Lancelot responding to Man Ray, and Don Ravico says, yeah, the track was a bit slower. And let's see the start. Fensei is already licking his lips, rubbing those hands together, getting set for what should be a fantastic contest in the top tier of Breakaway League Racing. Thank you for joining us, folks. We've got the race and the tire strategies coming up next. Formation lap. We have 15 drivers, including a Mex, who is here, making his presence felt. Peace, aka Danuccio, says, I trust Fensei at the start of this race. Fensei, super aggressive. Starting P8 today, he will start in the hard compound tires, as will the race leader, Cicle, Don Radico, and Django behind the pole sitter are going to start on medium compound tires. Behind them, Donathan Laka has selected hard, so he will have to fight off Ngawako, aka D-Wax, on that long push, that long run towards turn 1. Zotal is also on the mediums, as is Ngawako. Tabo T92 all the way down to Kaposa. is a trio of hard tire runners. Sapiso mediums, as is Josh, aka Damnesia, who at the very least just needs to finish this race and claim some points if he's to capitalize on the final set of races. After today, we have races 15 and 16, which would complete the calendar, and thereafter we will have the replay of race, I believe it was race 3 in Abu Dhabi, which had to be abandoned because of glitch and lobby issues. So, do stay tuned, folks. We're going to have a fantastic race in prospect. Damnesia under pressure, bottom of the championship standings, needs the points, and as does this man, Ban Kobe, who takes an ultra aggressive strategy, opting to go on those soft compound tires. Perhaps Ban Kobe predicts an early safety car, and perhaps he's just thinking, I'm going to use those first couple of laps to try and affect as many overtakes as I possibly can, and thereafter, then when the safety car perhaps comes out, this is just, of course, hypothesizing, perhaps he will then go on to the more conventional tire choices after the safety cars. But it is the roll of the dice in the top tier. You never know what you might get. Somewhere in South Africa, Selby Sango is hoping for an early safety car. Selby Sango, of course, a tier 2 driver who does enjoy his fair share of chaos when the lights go out here in Mexico City. Looks like Caboza is having a moment trying to find his way to a starting position, as is one of the Red Bulls. Tabutine 2 did not quite find his way to the right position. But welcome, folks. Welcome to Mexico City. 5 lights, the only time South Africans look forward to the lights going out. We're racing in Mexico. Don Radical is already into the lead. Jonathan Leka in attack mode. Seaflay struggling to stay in touch with the front runners as we hope to get a switch of camera angle. Seaflay's on the outside line. He's got 2 Ferraris on the inside. Look at Django attacking. He has to take it wide, going off track. Contact between Django and a Ferrari. Django was going to tumble down. Oh, will he? Fensei came unstuck on his super aggressive restart, but Don Radical hangs on. It is Search Django who gains a place, and Seaflay's now down to P3. There was a little bit of yellow flag courtesy of that contact, but look at Ban Kobe gaining 8 places. He was all the way languishing down towards the bottom of the pack, but those soft compound tires singing at the start of this race. Ban Kobe with one of those dramatic starts to a race in this entire Breakaway League racing season. Wow, let's take a look at this race start. Smirch Django is keeping his teammate at bay. Just 1 point separates Django from Seaflay as far as the battle for the championship is concerned. So it is high stakes. Seaflay going on the attack, coming on side of the S's, and Seaflay, will he be able to get that done? No, it was Fensei attacking Seaflay. Contact in turn 12, and Fensei comes off worse off. Seaflay manages to keep his car pointed straight. Donathan Laka could not take advantage, but Seaflay falls behind. He's almost 2 seconds behind the leading pack, courtesy of that contact with Fensei, who will be fuming down in P11 as things currently stand. Perhaps Fensei was too eager, and here comes the fastest lap, of course. Don Radical, the first driver to cross the line. Seaflay is going to have to bridge this gap. 2 whole seconds between himself and Django, who's running all the way in P2. Donathan Laka hanging on to that P4 spot. It's an almighty tussle in the midfield. Look at that. It's Ban Kobe up to P5. 9 positions gained by the Aston Martin driver, who was looking absolutely imperious. That roll of the dice, that gamble by Ban Kobe, paying off in the early stages, but it's soft compound tires. Ban Kobe may yet live to regret this if we do not get a safety car, which would be his saving grace at this point. Well, he's going to have to put in the drive of his life if he's going to have any sort of a say between now and the end of proceedings. Ban Kobe is 5th, and Gawako has lost the place. He's running 6th. Caboza has gained a couple. 7th. Damnesia also running okay at this particular point in time. His teammate is a second behind him. Oh, Damnesia goes off track. He goes unstuck in the F section, and he tumbles down the standings. He is going to be now in P14 at the very least, unless Espuda can catch up to him. Josh, aka Damnesia, coming completely unstuck again. Zotal, also one of the drivers to lose out. He's down at P12, losing 6 places since this race absolutely started. His wing is intact as Zotal, so he's got the fight of his life to fight his way back into the reckoning. Seaflay trying to fight his way back into the battle for the race lead is the quickest man on track. It's lap number 3, I beg your pardon. The stewards have enabled DRS, so these DRS trains will affect overtakes and battles all throughout this pack here. Now, we're going to get back to the battle for the race lead, but for now, we're on board with Mex, who is hunting down Mandla, a.k.a. Romeo. Mandla has gained 5 places, so it's a little bit of a birthday treat for the Alfa Romeo driver, but he's going to have to keep this man at bay. There's a yellow flag in Sector 1. Looks like Esbuda down at the bottom may have been struggling over there. He's running all the way down to P14. Ooh, Mex almost going into the back of Mandla there, trying to hunt down the Alfa Romeo driver, so he's going to have to be careful. But this is the section of the track where things get treacherous. Damnesia was too eager on the throttle and the curve, and he came spinning off dramatically, bringing out the yellow flags. But this entire section, this entire pack of cars did not have too many issues there. Nintendo Wii, Mex's biggest cheerleader, is back in the comment section, waving that papaya orange flag for Team McLaren. P5 to P12 DRS train. This is great, says Liddy, possibly speaking about either Zotal or Josh, aka Damnesia. Now, Ban Kobe at this point will be regretting that tire choice because those softs are definitely starting to complain, possibly at this point. So Zotal, or rather Ban Kobe, has already used up so much of his battery power that red light is flashing, meaning his battery power is down to about 10% or less. And Gowacko will hunt the Aston Martin driver down, who does not have his teammate Sepultemba to at least be playing some sort of strategy games alongside with. He's all alone, is Ban Kobe. Can he do it? I wonder what he can do. Now, let's make sure you get all of the details that you do need. The top 2 drivers are currently running a set of medium compound tires. Getting back to that situation, Don Rabico has claimed the race lead and is about a second and a half ahead of Smirch Django. So, beautiful, flawless start by the Ferrari driver, who has eked out a little bit of a gap between the front 2. A second and a half separates Rabico and Smirch Django, and Sequay is about 1.2 seconds behind his teammate. Sequay is trying not to use too much of his battery in that effort to catch up. He's really managing his ERS perfectly. He's got about 80% worth of his battery power remaining. Comparatively, look at Django. He's down to about 60-odd%. Donovan Laka, hard compound tire start for him. He's P4. Behind him is Ban Kobe, who is being attacked by Ngowacko, a.k.a. D-Wax, but he was not close enough to go for it into that turn 1. So Ngowacko is going to have to bide his time and possibly go for it at another time. Esbuda has come into the pits early. It may yet be a wing change for the AlphaTauri driver at the back of the pack. He fits a set of medium compound tires very early. Esbuda had started on hards, remember. Yeah, not quite smooth sailing for the AlphaTauri driver. Mandla has caught up to the back of this 4-way battle, all the way from Ban Kobe, all the way down to himself. Ooh, Mex is a huge moment, forcing Mandla down the inside in the S section, but Mandla did not risk it. It was the same place where SSL Mango went for one of the most sensational overtakes that we've seen in Tier 3. Here comes Mandla on the inside of Mex. He thought about it, but he did not go for the move at that particular point of the track. Meanwhile, at the front, Seaclay has caught up to the back of his teammate. Ban Kobe has a huge moment coming out of turn 13, compromising his prospects towards the final sequences of corners. Ban Kobe struggling for grip in lap number 6 of 36. Ban Kobe weaves. He bobs to the right, trying to break the toe, and everybody just slaloms into his slipstream, trying to get whatever advantage they can. Everybody now using all of those as much battery power that they can. Ban Kobe versus Ngowacko once again. Do they make a little bit of contact? They almost do. Ngowacko having to go a little bit wide as Ban Kobe defends as aggressively as he can. Here comes Mex, side by side with Ngowacko. Will he get it done? Yes! On the outside, Mex is ahead of Ngowacko before they hit the braking zone, and he passes Ban Kobe. Beautiful double overtake by the McLaren driver before they get to the braking zone. Ban Kobe struggling. He's off track. He's absolutely struggling. He racks up a time penalty, courtesy of all those spins and that soft tire tire start for Bankobi, costing him dearly in lap number 6 of 36. And right now into this treacherous section of the track, Bankobi may be under threat of getting overtaken by even more cars. It's a procession, a whole DRS train hoping to overtake Bankobi. And Goako is thinking about it, but he did not get it done at that particular point in time. Mex is the next to get a time penalty contact, and Bankobi faces the wrong way, overtaken by so many cars. He's now down to P11 outside the points places, and it's an almighty battle as Fence overtakes thought about overtaking Zoltal. He's got the inside line. He does get that move done, and now Zoltal is the one struggling. Does he have damage? I wonder. Bankobi concedes, and will he come into the pits? I wonder. Mandla may have come absolutely unstuck in that battle, and he's now finally coming into the pits. What kind of a tire compound will it be for Mandla? It's a wing change, and Mandla switches from mediums to hard.
Marumandla bekazamile mara le DRS battle imshaye kabuhlungu asangakhona.
Look at Fence! He comes completely unstuck. Sorry to interrupt you, Protas, but Fence has sent it straight into the wall, and he leaves the session. What is going on? Is it a disconnection? Is it a rage quit? Fence in 6s and 7s, but now down to P12 in lap number 7 of 36. So the drama really starting to get turned up here, and Bankobi is still fighting for his life. He's staying out as long as he possibly can, pushing these tires as hard as he can. Looks like No Lutando is one of Zoltal's firm supporters. Well, Zoltal not having the best of days here. He's been stuck in the midfield, and he did not have the best starts. Fence has rejoined the race lobby. Zoltal wants to get this overtake done as quickly as possible. He thought about it before turn number 12, but he was not close enough on the back of Bankobi, who is really struggling.
Bangoba ngaziwayo fosta ngala matayera namatayera yasogola and otangena kumapitle tshentsha matayera.
Yes, Bankobi Uya Foster. He is really fosting here, but it's not exactly going as well as he would have hoped. Here comes Zoltal on the inside of Bankobi in turn 17, and they're wheel to wheel. Bankobi is fighting it. Bankobi has got the straight line speed, but Zoltal will have the inside line, and Zoltal may yet have the position coming into turn number 1. Being cheered on in the comments by the likes of Crash and Nolitando, and of course a whole lot of more Alpine supporters. So Zoltal now up to P8. Let's get back to the battle for the race lead. Don Rabico in lap number 8 is still keeping it absolutely inch perfect. Let's see now how he navigates this second sector and the S section, which has already claimed its fair share of victims in the actual race. He's looking good, is Don Rabico, about half a second off the pace of his fastest time up until this point. Liddy says, I wouldn't get into a battle with the Zotile when it comes to straight line speed. Smirch Django, still a second and a half of the race leader. His network glitching, seeing him bob to the left and to the right. And it looks like he's about a second and a half behind the race leader. Seaclay has fallen off a little bit. He was within DRS of his teammate, but he's lost ground. Now he's 2 seconds behind his teammate. And just to give you a sense of how Don Rabico is doing, Don Rabico is about 3.7 seconds ahead of Seaclay, who's currently running in 3rd, and Don, who is running in 4th, and is having a decent race, all things considered, is 8.7 seconds behind the race leader. Caboza is currently 12 seconds behind the race leader, and Ingowako, trying to catch up to the back of the McLaren, is about 13.9 seconds. So Ingowako is, he's the meat and the sandwich. He's a sandwich in between those two McLarens is Ingowako, aka D-Wax.
Yeah, Marafel, ungako ipaloni namhlanje bese ilubrani dayide ngapopopotsa nebo Max. Uyazama.
Yes, Uyazama. But he's definitely got his work cut out for him. Let's see how it'll fare between now and the end of proceedings. Zotal, 21 seconds behind the pace. Josh, the Amnesia, found himself back into the points. And it looks like Zotal finally conceded and opted to come into the pits, lap number 9. So Zotal, who really took a gamble with his tire strategy, I beg your pardon, Bankobi, he finally has conceded and fitted a set of hard compound tires. They have now done 2 laps. So he's at the back. He's 46 seconds off the pace. So he's going to hope for a miracle to be able to catch up to the back of at least the midfield pack. Romeo is... his race was compromised by having to come into the pits early and change wings. He's P14. Not the best of birthdays for him. he's got some work to do. S. Buddha currently running in 15th at the back of the pack, but thankfully he's still running. Beautiful stuff by the race-leading pack, and Django's Network really seeing him bounce all over the track here. Well, he glitches his way from one spot to another, but he's still running, he's still in the lobby, and he's still in with a shout here. He's just got to make sure that he does not fall too far off the pack, but it looks like he messed up his entry into the S section. Look at that! Seaclay is right on his tail. Seaclay overtakes him, easily seemingly. So what is up with Django? He's really struggling in lap number 10. Did he take some damage off camera? Well, whatever might have happened, he is completely out of sorts, and he's falling further and further behind. Seaclay is now almost 2 seconds, 3 seconds ahead of his teammate. Well, Django struggling in lap 11. It could be network issues. It could be other mechanical issues that his car is struggling, but that has pretty much handed Seaclay that P2 spot without a fight. Or is it? No, it's his network. Well, folks, Django's network is really showing us flames here, because it looks like he's still in the middle of Rabico and Seaclay. Well, I retract that. Django's network is showing us some funny things here, but it looks like he did manage to hang on to that P2 spot. Remember, the top two drivers, Django, Rabico, started on those medium compound tires, and the champion, Seaclay, is 4.5 seconds behind his teammates as things currently stand, unless, of course, Django's network is fooling us. It may not be. No, he's definitely not 4 seconds behind, because that is Django in front of Seaclay. So it's not quite a gap that big. So yeah, we'll get a sense of where exactly Django is before the end of this race, I'm pretty sure. Let's get back to the battle. In the midfield, Tabo T92 is trying to effect an overtake on Josh, aka Damnesia, in lap 11 of 36. This is the section of track where Damnesia came unstuck earlier on. Can Tabo T92 take advantage and get closer? It looks like not quite. He's still about half a second behind the Alfa Romeo in front of him, and not quite close enough to get that move done. But he's right behind him, coming towards turn number 13, and he's definitely going to look to get something done. Van Kobe at the back of the pack is struggling. He was just overtaken by Mandla, who himself becomes the latest driver to earn a 3-second time penalty for track limit incursions. So those penalties will really come to bite them towards the end. This is Tabo T92 on the inside of Josh, aka Damnesia, and he gets the overtake done in lap number 12, finally. So now it's Josh's turn to fight back, and he has an almighty struggle. A scramble there coming out of turn number 3, and Josh may yet be overtaken by Tapiso behind him. So Josh really struggling to stay within the points here. And can he keep his composure and keep it together? Well, Tapiso is not going to need his second invitation. If he gets a sniff, well, he's going to go for it. Tapiso is also desperate to consolidate his points position. Remember, Josh is fighting to stay in this league. Tapiso is fighting to stay in the playoff spots or even further ahead. Josh is struggling in this section of the track, and now he's going to be under attack from Tapiso, who's going to take the outside line into turn 12. And it's advantage Josh, at least into the entry. Ooh, Josh was so conservative on the brakes there. Tapiso getting that move done on the outside of the Alfa Romeo driver. So Tapiso will be happy with that. He's now in that 10th spot, which is, of course, the final points position, which guarantees a single point, if, of course, he can finish there. Still a lot of racing to go. Josh concedes, comes into the pits. 12 laps is pretty much the limit that he could do on the medium compound tires. And with Josh coming into the pits, Fensei will say thank you very much and, overtake the Alfa Romeo driver. Will Romeo do so as well? Yes, Romeo now up to P12. Van Kobe will hope to overtake Josh, but it doesn't look like he's going to be close enough. On the pit exit, Josh comes out just ahead of Van Kobe, who's used up all of his battery trying to overtake the Alfa Romeo driver, but it's close, but no cigar. Meanwhile, at the front of the pack, this is an intriguing battle, it must be said, but let's see how Seaclay is faring. Once again, yeah, it looked like he was a 10th behind, but yeah, Django's network showing us flames, showing us figures which aren't necessarily true. Let's see how Ngawako will fare battling versus Kaboza. Ngawako still sandwiched between the two McLarens, but it must be said, Mex has fallen behind with each and every passing lap, so it hasn't been smooth sailing for the second McLaren driver. Currently in P3 and 4 in the drivers' standings. Zotal has opted to come into the pit. Brand new set of hard compound tires for him that it will take from lap 14 all the way to 36. As Zotal has pitted, that means the likes of Fence has passed him out on track. And where will Zotal come out is the question that we're asking ourselves. Will Mandla be close enough? No, not quite. Mandla is now about 4.8 seconds behind the Alpine driver. So Zotal comes out. He's running in P11, still desperate for points. And Ngawako still trying to get this overtake done. He thought about it going into turn 12, but he did not go for it. He's down to about 8%. So he's definitely flashing. It's advantage Kaboza in this battle for P5. Kaboza using about 30, down to about 33% of his battery power. Will he use a little bit of that to stay out of a potential overtake possibility from Ngawako? Well, the AlphaTauri driver is trying. He's really pushing, but it's just not close enough to get the move done. A couple of you still remarking on that glitch that Smirch Django has affected on this here lobby. And this battle for P5 is pretty much reminiscent of the battle that Ban Kobe is having to overtake the likes of Damnesia all the way down in P13 and 14 respectively. Back on board with Ngawako. Not the cleanest of exits for Ngawako coming out of turn 6. Lost ground to Mex. And it's fifth gear through the slaloming S's. But not quite close enough. In fact, he slipped all the way out of DRS. Now, the action among the leaders means that both Don Ramico and Smirch Django have come into the pit, and that hands the race lead over to Cicle, who will lead into the beginning of lap number 16. And with these two drivers coming into the pits, Donathan Laka, who also started on hards, will take that P2 spot. And look at that, Kaboza finding himself among the top three, as the likes of Don Radico come out behind Kaboza. Now, it looks like Radico is 15, almost 16 seconds behind the race leader, and he's now trying to get these brand new hard tires as warm as he can, just to get some grip into these tires. As you saw him weaving to the left and right, trying to get some temperature into those tires. It's a little bit of a struggle, as those tires are still a little bit fresh, and Smirch Django is now trying to keep Mex off his tail. Remember, the likes of Mex had yet to pit, and even though the likes of the drivers in 4th and 5th have pitted, Mex is still about 20 seconds behind the race leader. It just goes to show how sensational the performance of the likes of Cicle and Rabico and Smirch Django have been up until this point. Not the easiest of time that they're having, but Mex could perhaps, he had an opportunity to take advantage of Django's cold tires, but Smirch Django has now come to begin his second lap on those brand new hards. It's going to be even harder for Mex, whose hards have pushed for 16 laps up until this point. So yeah, not the easiest of times. That gap between the top two, now 10.5 seconds. Cicle in firm control of the race lead, but of course he still has to come into the pit, so it's crucial laps for the three-time champion. He needs to make sure that he maintains this gap or tries to extend it as much as he possibly can on these aging hard compound tires, because it's not going to be easy between now and by the time he comes in, presumably for a set of medium tires, which will then need to be warmed up as the likes of Don Ravico and Smirch Django catch up to him. But that gap right now, as things stand, is healthy, and Seaclay will come around to begin lap number 18 of a total 36. Donovan Lacka, beautiful performance by the Ferrari driver, currently second, and the man who could be seen as being in the net lead, of course, behind this man, behind Caboza, is Don Ravico. Brand new hard compound tires, running comfortably in that P4 spot, trying to keep Django at bay. You can see that gap between them. Django can pretty much still see Don Ravico in front of him. And Lancelot can barely believe that these drivers, have not even had a safety car between them. We've seen the safety cars come out in tiers 2 and 3, but no such issue in the top tier today. So it's been fair, clean racing for all of these guys thus far. There's a battle taking place between Ban Kobe and Tepiso. In fact, Tepiso just went past Ban Kobe, who came into this race so confident because of his season's best P5 performance last time out in Spain. Ban Kobe, not a believer of saving your battery. He has drained that ERS down to about 0%. That battery is empty, hunting down the Haas for that P12 spot. But he could not get that move done. Tindo says, well, it's impressive improvement from the Tier 1 drivers, making sure that no such major incidents to necessitate a safety car. Well, thankfully, we've been treated to some racing action here. Ban Kobe is going to have his work cut out for him as he tries to charge his battery. He does not seem to have enough in the bag to overtake Tepiso. Ban Kobe is glad, of course, that as things stand, he is in the playoff spots. In that P17 spot, Tepiso is in that P16 spot. And, yeah, those two drivers currently firmly in the playoff spot, trying to make sure that they do not fall too far out of the reckoning. But Ban Kobe, with that being said, falls out of Tepiso's DRS. So a couple of mistakes costing Ban Kobe at this particular point of the race. Seaclay is still pushing. He's still going. Now making his way out of the second sector. Will this be the lap where he brings it in, or will he go around a couple more revolutions of this lap? And we'll get a sense of just how well Seaclay is maintaining his speed here. By the time he crosses the line, we'll see whether or not he manages to stay within his best lap up until this point. He comes across the line to Seaclay about half a second off his previous best time. And Donovan Lacka at the end of the second sector is about a second off his best lap. But, of course, Don has yet to pit thus far. So Seaclay being half a second off his best lap is absolutely sensational stuff, considering these tires are 19, soon to be 20 laps old. He's still managing to maintain sensational race pace as Josh, aka Damnesia, becomes the first casualty out of this race. He retires at the back of the pack. Damnesia seemingly retiring his car in the pits. So Josh waving the white flag, no longer able to continue his prospects. Josh is out in lap number 20 of 36, becoming the first casualty out here on track. Quickest man on track is still Don Ravico. 20.277 is the fastest lap that we have seen thus far. Sadly for Josh, he will remain mired, anchored to that bottom spot in the driver's standings, having racked up just 5 points. Sadly for Josh, will not be able to improve here today. Now, Don Ravico wants to get past Caboza as Seaclay has finally come into the pits. Now, Caboza holding off Don Ravico is playing perfectly into the hands of Seaclay. Donovan Lacka finally comes into the pits as Ravico has gone past the three-time champion. So try as he might, Seaclay could not make sure that he gets that advantage versus Django and Don Ravico. But, crucially, Smirts Django has racked up a 3-second time penalty. So what does that mean? It means that that is the benchmark. Seakley needs to come within 3 seconds of Smirts Django, and that will be pretty much that as far as the team battle and the championship battle is concerned. So Smirts Django, that mistake definitely costing him, and he's now going to need to drive an inch-perfect race between now and the end of this race. So safety car coming out would be such bad news for Django, considering that 3-second time penalty, because he will then be, the one to pay most dearly. So Jonathan Laka coming out of the pits finds himself in P5, and Esbuda at the back of the pack earns a 5-second penalty for speeding on his entry into the pit lane. Seakley now has a whole 12 seconds to catch up between himself and his teammates. The gap is too big now, reckons Tindo, and Don Ravico is the quickest man on track again, as a Caboza coming into the pits means that Smirts Django is now up into P2 without having had to overtake the McLaren driver. So Caboza is trying to come out ahead of, at the very least, Jonathan Laka, but it may yet be a tall order because Don is now passing him on the main straight. Ooh, Smirts Django really struggling there on the exit of that corner, losing a little bit of ground, loses a couple of tenths of a second, and Inati is asking how the championship fight is looking. Well, Inati, this man, Smirts Django, coming into this race, was 1 point ahead of the 3-time defending champion, Seakley. So that is how the fight for the championship was looking, and Smirts Django is the one trying to reclaim, or rather to claim the throne for the very first time at the first time of asking. Don Ravico is the quickest man on track from Smirts Django. So Don Ravico, the quickest driver that we have seen, at least in Q1 and Q2. He did not qualify in pole position. He got things messed up towards the end of his final run, but he's definitely made amends for that. And then some. Now leading the race and well and truly very, very comfortable with 13 laps of racing to go. Django has had network issues trying to hold his own, and Seakley, the 3-time champion, who's a softer medium tire, is definitely going to play into his hands, especially in that battle for the fastest lap. He is now holding that quickest lap at this point with 13 laps of racing to go. Jonathan Laka is in P4, 6 seconds behind the 3-time champion. Caboza has already pitted, P5, trying to chase down the Ferrari in front of him, but has that 3-second time penalty to contend with. Ngawako, aka D-Wax, keeping it consistent in the midfield. May that be another solid points finish. And if you can stay within 3 seconds of Caboza, of course, then D-Wax is in for another sensational points finish here today. Mex is running almost 6 seconds behind Ngawako, but has a time penalty of an equal amount, 6 seconds. Zotal running in P8, being cheered on in the comments by No Lutando, among others in the comments. And, of course, the likes of Miss Bono, who, of course, cheered the likes of Zotal on back when he still drove for Red Bull. He's in the Alpine colors now, not had the best of races, had a season's best performance. He finished second in Spain, did Zotal. Beautiful day it was for Team Alpine, as Seakley sets another fastest 18.888. Zotal now fighting his way up. He just needs to gain more ground, and he would be able to take advantage of that 6-second time penalty that Mex has ahead of him. Mandla, Romeo, birthday boy, is in the points, but only P9 with that 3-second time penalty today. Hunting him down is Tabo T92, and it looks like Tabo may yet be gaining ground by a couple of tenths with each and every sector. Oh, Ban Kobe struggling at the back. Oh, he lost his wing, did Ban Kobe. Ban Kobe struggling after coming into this race so confident with that season's best P5 in Spain. He's now going to have to come into the pits with Ban Kobe. He's wingless at the back, P13. But thankfully for Ban Kobe, he does have a pit stop's worth of a distance between himself and Esbuda. But as Bankobi comes into the pits, it means that he will be getting lapped. In lap 24 of 36, Don Rabico, who was already lapped as Buddha, now laps Bankobi, as does Smirts Django in lap number 25. And the three-time champion Seaclay will follow suit and make it a total of 3 cars that have lapped the Aston Martin driver. Will Don Rabico be able to do that as well? Well, I'm sure by the time Bankobi hits the pit exit, Bankobi may yet be seeing the blue flags from race control, urging him to make way for the fast-moving cars which are on the verge of lapping him. Crash reckons that Don Rabico pretty much has this race in the bag. He's been comfortable in quali. He's been calm, cool, confident, clinical in the race itself, and he's been pretty much unchallenged ever since going for it so dramatically at the start of this race. Absolutely imperious is Don Rabico since coming to the top tier of Breakaway League Racing. It was quite bombastic when he first made his presence felt. He said, hey, put the entire league on notice. He said, from here on out, the podium places have been fully booked. Well, those words did come back to bite him in Brazil when the likes of Fence came roaring back emphatically, but, well, Don Rabico has pretty much kept things that way. Look at that. Also as consistent as Seaclay. He's about 5/10 off his fastest lap. Almost half a second off, so he's managing to keep that race pace oh so consistent, as is the likes of Smirch Django, who is about 2.5 seconds behind him. Look at that gap. Seaclay is closing that gap, and he knows it just needs to get to within 3 seconds. Anything less than 3 seconds between Seaclay and Django means that the champion will then leapfrog his teammate and overtake him on the drivers and the championship standings. So Seaclay and Django, the battle is going all the way down to the wire. Donovan Laka, still running P4. Beautiful, consistent race from him. Been unchallenged. Been having a fairly lonely race without incident. He's just kept things calm, clean, consistent, clinical, and is now on the verge of overtaking the ghost of Bankobi, which would mean that the Aston Martin driver, of course, would be lapped by the driver currently running in P4. Kaboza kept things steady in P5, and Ngawako not quite as close as he would have wanted to be in that McLaren sandwiched between those two McLarens. And, of course, Mex running in P7, Zotal still 8th, Tabo T92 trying to catch up to the back of Zotal, and Mandla, meanwhile, was overtaken in the interim by Tabo T92, who a couple of laps ago, of course, was trying to overtake Mandla. So the birthday boy tumbling down the order a little bit, not having the best of days. Esbuda, another 5-second time penalty for speeding into the pit lane. And Esbuda retires from the race again. He is out. Esbuda and Josh becoming the two drivers to wave the proverbial white flag, and they are out of proceedings. It may yet be the 10th DNF, the 10th retirement that Esbuda has had this season. So, yeah, a very, very sad exit and sad end to Tier 1 as far as Esbuda is concerned. Has really, really been struggling as the Alpha Tauri driver, I beg your pardon. And these two just passed a slow-moving car. Now, finally, was that Tapiso? Is he struggling? Fence is going for it here into turn 1. Turn 2 is clean. He's got the fresh tires, softer tires, quicker tires. He goes on the inside before they hit the braking zone into turn 4. And he's cool, calm, confidently ahead. Mandla did not fight that too aggressively. Well, Mandla is now out of the points, and the birthday boy may yet have to contend with a pointless race performance here. Is lap 28 will soon trickle towards 29 and onwards. So Mandla overtaken by Fence, who finds himself in that 10th spot. The last point, of course, the last point going to the driver finishing 10th. Inati feeling for the likes of Mandla, who is now a second. and a half behind the driver in P10.
Miguel Lane, Fence Lane, at least for the actually pointing on. Actually pointing on and a kicking on. Something I must point and they're pointing on.
Well, the driver's not feeling too generous. It is Tabo T92 versus Zotile. It looks like Tabo on the fresher compound has just got the move done. And Zotile, who was running unchallenged in P8, finds himself now in that 9th spot. Aging hard compound tires. It's not going to be easy for Zotile to catch up. Meanwhile, C-Clay has caught up. C-Clay is now within 3 seconds of his teammate, which means that Smirch Django will not claim that P2 spot. And it will, of course, mean that C-Clay, if it stays as is, then C-Clay will leapfrog his teammates to reclaim the lead of the championship with just 3 races remaining in the top tier of Breakaway Racing League. Here comes Zotile trying to stay within touching distance of Tabo T92, but sadly may not have enough as far as tire compound and battery power.
You see, we do have the capacity.
You don't got the facilities for that, big man. You can't do it. You can't do it, big man. How can you, big man? You got a couple of laps to do it, big man. 14-lap-old hard tires, big man. Zotile is trying. He's going for it. He's within a second, but really can't keep up, seemingly, on that rush towards turn 1. Zotile will not be close enough to try and dive on the inside of Fence, who hangs on to P8. Tabo T92 rather hands on to P8. Fence running about 3.2 seconds behind Zotile. So Fence can see those two, the Alpine and the Red Bull driver, but of course not close enough to get that move done. A safety car would be the only saving grace to spice things up at this point of the race. But not only that, on top of catching up within 3 seconds of his teammate, C-Clay may yet overtake the man on track. He's got 6 laps to do it, and judging by his pace as the quickest man on track, he can definitely do it. Fence earns a 3-second time penalty in the 30th lap. And at this point, C-Clay can see the top 2 drivers. There goes Don Rabico on the exit of turn 5 and now 6. Glitchgate beneficiaries are struggling, so says Liddy in the comment section. Oh, look at that. Django makes it a 6-second time penalty. Struggling towards the end here is Django, trying to make sure that he's not overtaken. And Ban Colby crashes out in Sector 1 in Turn 1. At the end of Turn 1, Ban Colby loses his car, bringing out the safety car in lap number 30 of 36. And who will come into the pits? We're on board with the leaders. Will Don Rabico fight for this race win by coming into the pits? Django has a time penalty. He's got nothing to lose. Rabico opts to come in. Django follows suit, as does C-Clay. It's going to be a Mercedes double stack. So C-Clay's definitely going to lose time here. And he's going to hope, will C-Clay, that Donathan Laka is not close enough. Thankfully for him, Donathan Laka is nowhere near close enough. Of course, at this point, they're going to fit on brand new soft tires, you would expect. C-Clay is the only person to do that. Don Rabico, Django, opt to go for medium compound tires. Here comes Donathan Laka. He's not going to follow suit, or will he? It's mediums for him as well. Curiously, so the pack will now get bunched up, and Ban Colby, who would have been hoping and praying for a safety car, was the driver to actually bring out the safety car, sprinkling a little bit of drama towards the end of proceedings here. And it's a double stack for Team McLaren, and it's going to be soft compound tires for Moteo Mekwa, aka Mex, being cheered on in the comments by Nintendo Wii and the likes of Brendan N-Cube, of course, who we haven't seen in the comment section in a while. Mex goes for the softs. Zotile will also presumably do that. He's going to come out in P9, but thankfully for Zotile, who did not rack up too many penalties, will now have a fighting chance to find himself among the finishers in those top points places. So those time penalties are really going to come back to bite the likes of Fence and Mandla on his birthday here. May yet be in with a chance of doing something special on his fight back to find himself back within the points here. with just a couple of laps of racing to go. Nolatando says is chuckling at the Glitchgate benefactors, beneficiaries. That, of course, some of you have been noted in the comment section. Tsepiso, must be said, is also within a chance here of finishing strongly, possibly, because now under safety car, they're going to follow the safety car, moving very slowly, of course, and they're going to get bunched up behind the safety car, and it is then going to be a proper sprint towards the end of this race, giving all these guys a chance to fight back. But as I say that, both Tsepiso and Mandla have 6 seconds worth of time penalties. So that fight back may not yet be that straightforward and clear cut.
engathi kuzobanzima uMandla noTshepiso lama-penalty azobakhosta.
Yes, Azoba Costa indeed. And Ngawako D-Wax coming into the pits later than I would have expected him to. And will that cost him dearly, Ngawako? Well, it may yet do so, because Tabo T92 is really pushing to come out ahead of Ngawako. And will he? Ngawako, lucky driver, despite pitting late, still hangs on to that P7 spot. Tabo T92 would have been hoping to be a beneficiary, but not quite. Close but no cigar. Thank you, Crash, for reminding the guys to like the stream, and subscribe to the channel if you have not already. It's Don Ravico versus Django versus C-Clay. Don't discount Donathon Laka, Don Satole, one half of the iconic DJ duo Lemon and Herb, sprinkling in some flavor on this here track. One of the sensational rookie drivers as far as Tier 1 is concerned. Well, he's been making that Ferrari sing ever since the start of the season as the musical Donathon Laka. Now P4, and remember, he does not have penalties. The likes of Django has penalties, so Don is in within a shout of a podium place. It may yet be guaranteed here if he just hangs on to this position between now and the end of proceedings. We'll have a couple of laps of racing. We're just waiting now for the likes of Tsepiso to catch up to the back of the pack. And we'll see what Tsepiso can do between now and the end. Look at that. 6 seconds. Django, he's going to regret this. He's going to lose so much ground in that battle for the championship. It was only 1 point separating Smirch Django and C-Clay before today, and Django had that advantage. But 6 seconds worth of time penalties is going to see Django tumbling down the order, and it's going to see C-Clay, well, he's going to leapfrog his teammate. It's, not such a great day for Django. Look at those penalties. Caboza will also come to rue that 3-second time penalty, as will his teammate. So Ngawako is in with a shout of a really solid points finish here today. And if he can effect a miraculous overtake on the two McLarens early on, who knows? Maybe even Ngawako will be fighting for a podium place, considering all these time penalties. Tabo T92 will also not be happy with the penalty that he will be suffering towards the end of the proceedings here today. Zotal may yet have a beautiful moment of redemption here, because so many drivers ahead of him have 6-second time penalties, 3-second time penalties. So Zotal is in with a decent shout here. With just 12 drivers left running, we should have just a couple more drivers who need to catch up to the back of the pack. No, everybody is pretty much there. Everybody's caught up. They're weaving to the left and to the right, just trying to get some temperature into those tires. And I do expect race control will give the word that the safety car is coming in at the end of this lap. Yes, that's the word. So, guys, do remember to like the stream. Thank you for just giving Nolatando some pointers there, some guidance on how to like the stream. Like the stream if you haven't already, folks. We're going to get racing for 3 laps out here in Mexico City, Autódromo Hermanos Rodríguez. 3 laps of racing to go. Who will hold their nerve? Look at Django and Don Ravico trying to keep the field guessing. Don hasn't pushed yet, and now he goes for it, as does Django. That gap is not quick enough to surprise anybody in that top three. Look at that. They managed to hang on to those positions, and Jonathan Lacka has been overtaken before turn one. Composa, with the time penalty, got that overtake done. Look at Don Ravico under attack from Django, who gets the move done. And now Don Ravico is going to have to keep Seaclay at bay. Can Smirch Django fight back now? Or rather, can Seaclay fight back, because he's just lost a position to the likes of Django, who manages to hang on, but Seaclay is fighting back before they get to turn 4 here, and almost makes contact with the back of the Ferrari. It's close, but no cigar. Seaclay will have the inside line. Will Seaclay go super aggressive? Yes, he will. There's contact, and they both spin, and here comes the Composer to go into P2. Seaclay tumbles down the order, and that moment of contact between the Ferrari and the Seaclay will cost him the race win here. Django has the time penalties, and as things stand, Ngawako, aka D-Wax, is the driver who is set to benefit if he can somehow make sure that he is within 3 seconds of Composa. D-Wax may be in line for a fantastic possible race win here. So Don Ravico did not go without a fight. Don Ravico and Seaclay were absolutely sending it, and no one wanted to give in that sequence of slow corners, but both of them spinning off and tumbling down the order. Seaclay is now fighting back versus the birthday boy, who tumbles down to P6. Mandla is fighting back. Mandla is going for it on the inside before they get to turn 1. Who will be brave around the brakes? Who will get the inside line? It looks like Seaclay is going to be ahead before they get into turn 1. And Seaclay hands out to P5, but Seaclay is under duress. That is Mandla! Oh, look at that! He spins. Fensei makes contact with the birthday boy, who tumbles out of the points. And he will be seething at this point. It's so much drama, I can barely catch my breath trying to keep up with these battles. And they're pretty much all over Tepiso. What was that? Oh, an audacious move on the inside of Jonathan Lacka. And Cepiso, with a 9-second time penalty, gets an overtake done, forcing the likes of Don Ravico and Jonathan Lacka offline, and he's now up to P8. But he's got 9 seconds worth of time penalties to contend with. Let's get back to the battle for Seaclay, who was now driving with anger and just looking to somehow find himself back into the reckoning for the lead, or rather for the race win. He needs to overtake 2 cars if he is going to get this move done. But of course, Caboza may yet have an almighty say as far as the race win is concerned. Man Ray says, man, oh man, you guys just don't like Mandla. How could you do him dirty like that? Django with a 3-second time penalty and a 6-second time penalty and a almost 3-second advantage to P2 is in the lead of this race. Zotal is on the verge of getting overtaken. Here comes Seaclay on the inside. It's wheel to wheel before turn 1. Zotal tried to fight it, but he did not have enough in the bag to keep the Mercedes, the 3-time champion, Seaclay at bay. Seaclay now up to P4. His next target, Ngawako, aka D-Wax. This is the final lap of the race, folks. I wonder, will Ngawako, aka D-Wax, do this? Will it be a memorable maiden race win in what would be a sensational top-tier season of Breakaway League racing? They're now making their way through turns 5, turn 6. Now the rush towards the treacherous sequence of corners, that being, of course, the S's in the rush towards turn 11. This is Ngawako, aka D-Wax, now making his way, navigating those S's perfectly, and he is now trying to keep Seaclay at bay. Seaclay is there. He's right there behind him, remember. Do not blink your eyes. Do not avert your gaze. It is Smirch Django who's going to come across the line as the first driver, but he may struggle even to hang on to the podium places. Django will cross the line, but he won't necessarily win the race, courtesy of those time penalties. Seaclay will try claiming an unlikely race win across the line, but who is Ngawako, aka D-Wax, who wins his maiden race win in the top tier of Breakaway League racing? A word of appreciation for the AlphaTauri driver who claims an absolutely iconic race result in the city of Mexico. He pumps up his fist and he points to the crowd, barely believing the way that he kept it together. And Ngawako, aka D-Wax, puts in a sensational showing to claim the race win. Such a breathless finish, I could barely even catch up with who claimed the last podium place. Listen to that! How does that feel?
Let's go! Just what a race, man.
And Kowako, aka D-Wax, on the top step of the podium. Look at that. Just take us through that. Take us through your quali. You looked really, really good. And just take us through that race and what you were thinking by the time the pit window came in, because you came in later into the pits and you had to fight off some drivers there towards the end.
Jeez, man. Quali was great, eh? Some of my best qualifying. Onto the race, I think my pace was good on the mediums, but on the hards it was not that great. And then the safety car came, and then I didn't pit. And then I saw everyone pit, and I was like, you know what, these guys have penalties, so
Yeah.
let me just pit. And then I came out P7 or P8. And then I don't know what happened between CK, Don, Debo. Wow.
Don Rabico. That's all that matters, man. I am so thrilled for you. You've been one of the most consistent drivers. You barely get into trouble with other drivers and indeed with time penalties. It is so beautiful to see on the top step of the podium. How close did it get, Ngoeko? Like, was it, were you on like 2 warnings for track limits, or did you just keep it clean the whole way through?
No, I was actually on 1 warning. And then the last lap, I just said, you know what, let me use this ERS. Django was the one that I was concerned about because he's quick here, but I saw he's on old mediums. So at least I could keep up a bit. But yeah, I was just on 1 warning. That's it, clean race.
Absolutely beautiful, beautiful stuff. And of course, the 2 other podium finishers, the 3-time champion. You were on the brink of something special here, especially after your competitors picked up penalties and you came into the pits. Clay, take us through that race and take us through the drama of that conclusion and how on earth you fought your way back to the podium. Congrats, sir.
I hated every single bit of that race. My teammate's car was lagging. I was racing a lagging car. Kept on slowing me down. I got 2 invalidations because of it and a broken wing. So it wasn't a ghost that I could avoid.
Yeah.
I had front wing damage and I lost so much time in the pit stop. I lost so much time on track. I think I would have come out ahead of them after that pit stop. I gained a lot of time for hard and fully broken wing.
So what was the incident that caused the wing issue?
The incident, it was in the S section. His car kept on lagging.
The glitching, yeah.
Not glitching, it's lag, honestly.
Yeah.
It's honestly network. It kept on lagging. Yeah, and it wasn't ghosting. That's the sad part about it. So I broke my wing because of that. Then I kicked up a bit, I could say. They weren't opening such a huge gap, but that was a time when I was supposed to be closing in. I mean, my tires were better, and I think I had better pace with those hards. But yeah, I don't know. It's just that entire race, that was supposed to be a win.
Oh man! But yet, despite that, you managed to put in a sensational recovery drive of sorts, finishing on the podium and taking firm control of this championship. Your teammate finished way down the standings in comparison, so that puts Clay firmly in the driving seat of the championship. Kaposa for Team McLaren. He had some troubles. He was mired in the midfield. He had the time penalty to contend with. But man, did he fight towards the end of this race. Take us through that race and congrats.
Yo, first of all, it's nice to be here. But the pace wasn't there today. Shout out to the Mercs and the Ferraris. They had the pace; they were just pulling away. And also shout out to the race winner, D-Wax. I was trying to pull. I was guided to we were on different strategies, because I know his pace was very strong today. So I was hoping that I was going to be able to pull out a gap in the safety car while we were still on hards, but then he went to the pits for the soft. And unluckily for us, we didn't get any cars between us, the McLaren, and him. So McLarens were both on penalties, 3 and 6 seconds. So yeah, that was our race, because those penalties actually killed us. But yeah, shout out to the gents. Yeah, quite a long
Man,
race.
it wasn't the easiest of races. Time penalties pretty much all throughout the grid, and that drama towards the end there. So we saw you double stacking Sinclair. Just to come back to you, at that point, did you also opt to change wings, or did you just stay with that same wing towards the end?
No, this is first stint. I was still on hards. My
Yes.
wing broke when I was still on hards, and I changed. Hence why I came out 11 seconds behind. I had to change my wing, and yeah, like driving like 5, 6 laps with a broken wing.
Yeah.
That's and old hard tires. That's not fun. So yeah, I'm quite pissed off because I was losing proper nearly a second in the S section.
Yeah.
By that time, I was supposed to be taking it nearly flat out, and I couldn't.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
Ah, man. Well, still a sensational recovery to come back into the points, and he's reclaimed the championship. Gentlemen, that was hugely, hugely entertaining. I forgot to ask you in the comments who your driver of the day is. I suspect Ngawako will feature there. He's getting a lot of words of congratulations, and I see that a lot of you were responding to that drama in those final couple of laps. And yeah, just catching up with the final comments before wrapping up the stream. Congratulations, gentlemen. We will see both of you at the next race, which will be in Bahrain. So that will be on Tuesday. Thank you, Kaboza. Thank you, Ngawako. Thank you, Sikle. What a beautiful race out here in Mexico. And thanks to all of your comments. Liddy, Manray, Wendell, Shezzy, Nalatando, Tabang, as well as Lancelot, Kid K, and Inati as well. I don't know if Charlie Three Stacks was here as well. Tindo, thank you for participating. Everybody as well. Key Music, if I haven't mentioned your name, definitely Duke was also here. Debo Croc, thank you. We will see you for the race on Tuesday. Thank you, everybody, and good night.